Hi, this is Sam Hunter from Hunter's Design Studio, and this is a quick technique video for making the quarter circle block. The quarter circle block is made of two pieces. There's a convex shape and a concave shape. We often hear them called the pie and the crust for simplicity, because the math words often can be a little confusing. One of the ways I remember it is concave has somewhere that you can go into if you're going into the cave. These templates are made by Jen Carlton Bailey, and they're some of my favorite templates for cutting this shape. All of the patterns that I write that require this shape recommend the template, but also include diagrams for paper templates if you don't want to purchase a template. So first of all, we have to cut them out. Just so you know, I'm using scraps from my scrap box, and I'm going to cut two blocks out at once because I'm going to show you two different ways to put them together. So with the template, anchor it into the corner of the block, and using the little rotary cutter, this is the 28mm rotary cutter, we'll just take that little cut and we're going to come through the inside here. Comes out, and then we're going to cut that piece off the end, and we're going to close that cutter. So now we have two of these. You only need one per block, but I'm going to demo a couple of things. So on this guy, again, we put the template down in the corner. Now this is the 6.5-inch template. I could probably go around it with the standard rotary cutter. I'm going to use the little one again, mostly because the little one handles curves better. If you get your templates down much smaller than these, you definitely have to go with the small one. Now, if you don't feel like rotary cutting these, you can also draw that out with a marker and then cut it with scissors. So we are going to make these fit into these. Turn that over so my white on white is facing the same way. So the first thing I like to do is find the center of that arc. So fold the block in half, and I just put a pinch in. Let's hold it down. You get a nice little crease. Might not show up well on the video, but I'll pop a pin into it so you can see it. And then we do the same thing on the top. Now, one of the nice things about these templates is we can sew the block and then we trim it back to an accurate size when we're done. That means if this doesn't fit exactly, we're a little bit wobbly on our cut, a little bit wobbly on our seam, we're still going to have a nice block when we're done. I'm just going to do that over here as well. Pinch. Just popping a pin in for reference. Pinch. And I'll pop a pin in there. Okay, so there are a couple of ways to assemble these. So you're going to get those two centers together, and then you have to ease this guy around until this flat edge and this flat edge are talking to each other. Looks pretty awkward, doesn't it? So what I like to do is I lined those up, I took one pin out, and then I'm going to pin it together right there. Then I'm going to just gently ease this around just to test drive how it's going to fit. And as you can see, it will align here. So then the next thing I'm going to do is align that flat side and this flat side and get a pin into it. We don't want this to swing out. Now in between here, we're going to ease it. Those of you who have a little dressmaking or garment making experience, this looks a lot like setting in a sleeve. Just bring them together. When I'm pinning these, I use a lot of pins. I kind of believe that if you're gonna pin, pin. And if you're not, don't. I feel like it's easy to take out extra pins. Certainly easier than having to fuss when you don't have a pin holding something that needs to hold. Okay, looks like about enough. I'm gonna reset this guy because he's not lining up. And then we're gonna do the same thing here. Just gonna give this a little test drive around there. We're easing it. We're giving it the gentlest of tugs. We are not stretching it, okay? The last thing you want to do is grab that thing and give it a good old yank. You'll introduce some bias into it, and the chances of your block laying flat go away. Okay, look at that. Okay, and then we're going to pop these in here. This feels a little awkward to be doing it with my hands so far away from my face, but I don't think you really want my head in between the camera and the work. I mean, my hair's cute and all, but yeah, let's not do that, right? Okay. A little bit of ease. Look at that. I'm going to put 2 in here. Oh, there's one. There's the other. Okay, so that guy's ready to go to the machine. I'm going to put him aside and we're going to do this one. On this one, I'm going to show you how to do it with glue. So I'm going to align this spot and this spot. But this time I'm going to hold that down. I'm going to take out both pins and I'm just going to hold that back. Glue. Now the glue is going to go on inside the seam allowance. And you're not drawing it because that will actually stretch along that edge. We're just tapping on it. So I'm going to get that center piece started with the glue. Okay, I'm gonna give it a little bit of a hold. There we go. And then I'm going to come through here. Oh, I need to extend my glue just a little bit more. And I'm just dotting that on inside the seam allowance. Doing the same thing, aligning those 2 ends. And then in between, I'm going to tap that seam down onto the glue. We only do half at a time because the glue tends to dry out quite quickly. Okay? If it pops back up, just draw a little more glue on. We're going to go here. Put those 2 ends together. And then we're going to just tap this down in between. Just like that. Alrighty. So next up, I'm going to take these to the machine and show you how to sew them. And then we'll be back over here to trim and press. And now we're going to sew our quarter circle blocks. So I have a glued one and I have a pinned one. I am going to do the pinned one first. So I have a 1/4 inch seam set up with a seam guide here. I like using the seam guide. I feel it holds my quarter better than sighting to the side of my foot. But one of the drawbacks to it when you have a lot of pins is, as you can see, I'm going to run into them. So as I take these pins out, I'm going to have to hold my fabric where I need it to be, and I'm going to have to let go of about 2 or 3 pins first. My stitch length is on 2. This is a Janome 1600P, which is the Janome version of the Juki. It's a fast straight stitch. And I am going to go, you probably can't see me touching the controls here. I've chosen to go needle down so that anytime I let go, this isn't going to come out or get out of alignment. So as I take my pins out, I'm just going to keep this edge of the fabric gently touched up against my seam guide. Now, one of the reasons why we sew with the pie crust on top is if we're about to make any pleats and wrinkles, we can see them coming and we get an opportunity to just fuss them out, gently move them around so they don't get pinched into the seam. A little bit slow going here. Okay. I'll hold all of this down as we go around. There we go. So I thought I saw something a little bit pleated. See right here, there's a tiny, tiny, tiny little tuck. I'm going to look at it from this side, run my hand over it. That is not going to show up when we iron it. Okay, so that's how we do it with the pins. This is how we do it with the glue. Again, needle down. And again, just fuss the extra weight of the crust as you go around. Little bit smoother without having to stop for the pins. And cut. And let's have another look. Again, little tuck there. Let's have a look underneath. I could live with that one. If you don't want to live with it, what you do is you unpick about 1/4 inch to either side and then flatten it out again and then just stitch that little bit in. But this one, I don't think we're going to see that from a galloping horse. And now we're going to press our blocks. We can choose to press out towards the crust, but the block usually looks better in the quilt if you press this under and pop the pie up. So what I like to do is just come in here with the iron and start moving the crust over like that. Okay, and come back to this side and press it from the top. You're probably looking at it going, that doesn't look very square, Sam. And it's okay, we're going to give it a trim afterwards. Do the other one while we're here because we did 2 blocks. Okay, I'm going to get these over here while I'm still holding the iron so I don't burn myself on it. And we'll give these a trim. So this is a 6.5 inch block and I have a 6.5 inch ruler. So what we're looking for is the place in the block where we have a 1/4 inch to that seam allowance and a 1/4 inch to this one. Okay, so that little bit all around the block is going to leave us. ready to go. Then when we sew this in right here, we'll be right up against the pie on the quarter circle. Now don't forget, you've got a lot of stretchy stuff going on here, which means if you need to give it a tug or a stretch or a little gentle encouragement into the block, like see, I'm just a little bit larger than a quarter here, but I'm already at the end of this fabric. This is going to give just a little bit when we piece it in there. And sometimes a hot steamy iron is your best friend when you need a little bit of extra give. Okay, so if we were putting these in the flowers quilt and we were sewing them together, we would lock these guys up and we would sew along there. We'd pinch those seams together right on top at 1/4 inch. If you have any questions about this video, please leave them below the video in YouTube or get a hold of me through the contact page at huntersdesignstudio.com. Just look in the top menu for Get in Touch and write me a quick note and I'll do my best to help you. Thanks.